Hello everybody, we are doing our Week 19 CFL preview, which is always going to be fun. Now before we start, please make sure to subscribe to the channel if you are new. And of course, if you're new to the CFL or if you're already interested in the CFL, I'd love to have you here along the way as I hope to do this as a full-time career. Anyway, let's talk about Week 19 picks, my reasoning behind these games, and then, you can leave yours at the end of the video. So the first game of this week, we have Montreal taking on Ottawa in a very big game for both sides, and that will be at Ottawa at 7 o'clock Eastern Standard Time on Friday. Of course, this game could be a doozy. We just saw a beat-up Ottawa Red Blacks team actually upset the Montreal Alouettes, who really could have used that win and keep their playoff hopes alive. Ottawa looking to be desperate here, as they really do have to win all out in order to have realistic or even semi-realistic hopes of making the playoffs, whereas Montreal is in a spot, if they win, they clinch a playoff berth and then also clinch a home playoff game, which would be really cool for them and their fan base because it is a bigger CFL market and you would love to see that. But at the same time, Ottawa has a very strong, passionate, and faithful fan base as well, which is why I think the atmosphere could be good for this one. At the end of the day, though, I am going to be picking the Montreal Alouettes. It's tough to beat a team back-to-back weeks, and for Ottawa, they are losing guys. Parker, I think, is going to miss this game, and Montreal will be trying to get Stanback back in the rhythm and also look to clinch up that playoff spot. Not to say that there aren't other factors in this game. Again, if I could go through and do a deep dive, which I'm hoping to do, if I'm able to do a full-time thing, I would totally do a deep dive into all this. But you just think both teams have a lot to play for, but Montreal, they just came off of this loss. They really need to get going, and with Arbuckle, which Arbuckle are you going to get for the Red Blacks? Tough to say, but we will see. Picking Montreal on this one. As for the other Friday night game, you have the Hamilton Tiger Cats against the Calgary Stampeders at McMahon Stadium, and that's going to be at 9:30. So this one is also important as well for not only these two teams, but a few others, primarily being the Saskatchewan Roughriders and the BC Lions. Hamilton is in a spot where when they beat Saskatchewan last week, they actually were able to wrestle that playoff control out of Saskatchewan's hands. And if the Tabbies went out, they would make the playoffs and there wouldn't be a crossover team, and that would be good for them. As for Calgary, they were able to gain some ground as BC lost at Toronto last week. That one was good for them. Why not, get a win here this week as well and make their life a little bit easier, trying to lock up the 2 seed or have a chance to lock up the 2 seed. Hamilton looking to win this one, of course, to keep their playoff hopes alive. Calgary looking to win this one in order to get that 2 seed. In this game, I am going to be picking the Calgary Stampeders. Deeper team, better team. They still have something to play for. If they didn't have something to play for, I would say, go get it. Hamilton's got this. But at the end of the day, Mike Henry, Pagleton, just so many good players for them. And then their defense might allow some yards, but they will also get some stops and possibly some turnovers, maybe even some that they can score off of, or the defense can score themselves, which is why I'm going to pick Calgary here. Hamilton might be desperate and they might put on a good show, but at the end of the day, picking the better team and the team that's been more consistent all year. As for the Saturday games, you have the arguably biggest game of Saturday. It's tough to say because there's so much at stake here, and that is the Toronto Argonauts heading over to Edmonton to play the Edmonton Elks at 7 o'clock. We got some late games, of course, here, and the Argos have a chance to clinch the East if Montreal loses Friday night and then they win Saturday night over the Elks. Edmonton, of course, really doesn't have a whole lot to play for except for pride, as they are the first team to be eliminated from playoff contention. But Chris Jones and his team are not about to just roll over. Taylor Cornelius has been feisty. They've had to deal with some running back issues throughout the year. But I still think this group is not just going to roll over and say, you know what, guys, we're out of the playoff hunt. Here's an easy win. Then I would say on the flip side, Toronto, of course, is not going to take it easy either because they like to lock up the 1 seed out east as well. Will this one be a good one? I think it could be. I know Edmonton is coming off of a absolute spanking, whereas Toronto got a close win against BC. In this one, though, I am going to say Toronto wins it. Don't know if they'll clinch the East because, of course, I'm picking Montreal to win this week, which would set up some very interesting games between them later in the season. But, of course, Toronto here still has quite a bit to play for. They got a little more talent. And while the Elks have been able to challenge better teams, I think Toronto is going to get it done, whether that be ugly, whether it be be pretty. AJ Roulette might get some carries here if they're able to get the run game going, and it's curious to see what the weather will be like there up in northern Alberta. But all in all, got to pick Toronto here for this one. And then for the final game of the week, still a very interesting game, but a very interesting game in the sense of there's a lot to play or at stake for one team, not so much for the other. You have the Winnipeg Blue Bombers taking on the BC Lions at BC Place at 10 o'clock. I'm going to try to stay up and watch this game. And this one is going to be a game you would think, oh, Winnipeg's going to win this one. They're just going to blow BC out of the water, maybe like they did earlier in the year, which was still a better game than people expected. But yeah, this one is interesting because Winnipeg is resting multiple starters, including Zach Claros. So that is an interesting tidbit there. And the Lions are looking to get a little bit of a groove back after being beaten by the Argonauts, faced an early deficit, had some bad false starts, or offsides I should say, and this one was just a tough loss for them last week. Here they are in a spot where they just gave up a game to Calgary, or gave up some momentum there in their favor to the Stampeders, and they would really like to get a win here, because if they play Calgary at Big Man, who knows what happens, whereas BC Place I think would really be rocking for a playoff game. Also interesting because there's rumors maybe, just maybe, Nathan Rourke will be able to play for this game. I don't believe that at all. I think it's going to be Vernon Adams Jr., but still a very close game in my opinion. I think Winnipeg could win this. I really do. I haven't looked at the spread to see who is favored in this one. I'm going to be picking the BC Lions. Again, they have something to play for, whereas Winnipeg does not. You know, their backups might have something to play for in order to prove maybe I'm starter worthy, or maybe I deserve to be on this team past this season. But the Lions really have quite a bit to play for in order to try to host a playoff game, whereas the Bombers have locked up the #1 seat in the West. But those are my picks for the week. Of course, I have Montreal, Calgary, Toronto, and BC. I really only feel confident in one of those after going 1-3 last week, which I felt confident in last week. So maybe this one will be a reversal of fates where I don't feel very confident going into this one, but maybe I come out 4-0. That would be cool. Anyway, those are my Week 19 picks for this season, or Week 19 I should say. What are your picks? Let me know down below in the comments. Also, please make sure to like this video if you enjoyed it. Subscribe if you're new. Everybody stay safe. Have a great night.